64 game, retro gaming goodness.
Tony Montezuma's Gold, the Commodore 64 version, was released in May of 2024 by Monochrome Productions, a fast-paced action platformer that harkens back to classic 8-bit gaming, where one button was all you needed for a rip-roaring adventure. Today I'm also joined by Montezuma Maleki, the programmer and sound effects creator of the C64 version of this game, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Maciej Małecki. I am from Poland and I'm a programmer of the Commodore 64 version of the game Tony the Montezuma's Gold. I was the happy owner of Commodore 64 starting from 1990. I think I was using this computer for 4 years, and later, like 8 or 9 years ago, I have restored that one from the attic when it was stored for over 20 years. I'm happy owner of this machine again.
Tony itself as a game was actually inspired by real-life adventures of Polish explorer and documentary filmmaker Tony Halleck, who would travel the world and document ancient civilizations and cultures unlike anyone else had done before. He spoke 8 languages, created over 400 documentaries, and wrote 13 books. Truly a legend of his time. The game throws you in the role of Tony, an Indiana Jones-style adventurer and journalist, who gets a hot tip about Montezuma's treasure from his boss and decides to head out immediately to explore the temple and report on it before his rival Miguel can do his puff piece report on the subject. Apparently Montezuma's mask is more than just a simple treasure. This is all told through comic book style panels in the wonderfully atmospheric intro to the game. I first wanted to ask, what were the actual video games that may have inspired Tony's design?
Well, the inspiration, basically I would say the game creator is someone else, as I said. This is Rafał, and he designed this game for his son. But I mean, if you look at the game, you can easily guess, because the game itself is clearly inspired by the great Montezuma's Revenge. Of course, the game mechanism, the physics are really like very similar to that game. The way you control the main character, like with the jumping, with the fire press, it's also coming from Montezuma. And basically, when you make a jump, you cannot steer the jump. This is explicitly coded after Montezuma. But also, I mean, if you look closer at the game, because the Montezuma itself had a clone, which was basically the Rick Dangerous. So there are some elements from Rick Dangerous also visible in this game. So I'd say this is basically the mixture. I think the mixture of the childhood memories from Rafał, basically.
Gameplay-wise, Tony is very easy to get to grips with, and despite death lurking around every screen Rick Dangerous style, I found it to be a pretty relaxing game to play, with no time limit over your head. Each screen is just like a little adventure to take on itself. Tony has no attacks, he can simply duck to avoid creatures or traps, and jump. It's as simple as that, and that's what makes it such a chill game to enjoy. It's got 5 levels in total to traverse through, each being fairly large and made up of many flip screens, with treasures to collect for points and bonus lives, potions to collect which act as shields just like Montezuma's Revenge, allowing you to survive creature hits depending on how many bottles you are carrying at any one time, and keys which are used to open up doors in a level to progress further or just simply escape the stage. Levels are filled with enemies such as bats, tribesmen, snakes, etc, plus sparks and arrow traps and much more. Although gameplay wise it never feels quite as annoying or overtly difficult in any way, and if you are killed or get hit by an enemy they will remain dead, making certain slightly more challenging sections easier to complete at the cost of a life or a potion. I then asked how long this version of the game has been in development for.
It took me exactly a whole year to develop the Tony from scratch. I basically had nothing except a working Amiga version and a bunch of instructions. Of course I had a complete graphics, because graphic was provided by the game creator Rafał Dudek, but the code I have to start and I have to code it from scratch. So basically it took me a whole year. I haven't counted let's say the working hours, but initially when I was rushing to release the demo version as soon as possible, I was working like an every day during the evenings for like 2 or 3 hours per day. That was actually quite a lot, and it was very surprising that this game, it looks very simple, and basically the graphics is ready. It will take so much time to develop.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
The graphic style of this game is definitely not what you'd usually used to seeing on the C64, but it immediately makes it unique and interesting. Its high-res, sharply designed monochrome graphics immediately invokes the look and stylings of a 1950s style adventure movie. Everything looks great, from the slick menu system to the comic book intro, and the well-animated creatures and levels themselves. It's a nice, polished looking game that also, with the press of the F1 key at any time during gameplay, can switch out the color palette to give the look of multiple different late 70s to mid 80s computers, which is usually something you only see in modern game designs, so you can play it in the color scheme that's most nostalgic for you. I then asked, were there any major challenges in bringing this game to the C64?
First thing is that when I actually accepted or took this job, so to say, I wasn't really expecting any challenges, but the game itself doesn't look really complex. Yeah. But when I started to discuss this with Rafael to the closer details, then of course I have learned that it will not be very trivial. The game initially was designed for 8-bit Atari, and as we know, the 8-bit Atari, of course, this is why the game is monochrome in a high res. So for the Commodore 64, of course, we can display like a 16 characters exactly, I mean, with an ease. But Atari itself is slightly faster. I mean, the CPU is faster. But then after a few discussions, I met some on some discussion forums devoted to the Commodore 64 coding. I have actually discovered that I can implement this game in text mode, but if I treat each the room separately, and this is the flip screen game, I can do this. And I think that the performance is better than the Atari 8-bit, because on Atari, I mean, you don't have 256 characters, you have half of it. Therefore, also the full version is disk or cartridge only. It's not the single filer, because it's definitely not possible to code to squeeze the game into a single file. It's just too much assets. Currently, for the module that I have devoted for the coding, I have like 328 bytes left. That's it. Yeah. But the game is finished now, so maybe this will be used for the, let's say, updated version later on.
The soundtrack to this game is exceptional, and that's not just because I'm a SID junkie at heart, but it's simply addictive, spurring you on to go deeper into the temple, not only to discover more, but also to listen to those wonderful tunes. From the intro, to the menu, to the fantastic level music. It's a real SID treat of the highest quality, done by Adam Gilmour and Sami Juntunen. Adam did the only good thing about the European C64 version of Afterburner, aka the cool music, and a whole host of other great ones, from Blinky's Scary School to Draconis. And Sammy did the music for Vector 5's 2022 underrated C64 game Jungle Joe, which is definitely worth checking out. The game also supports sound effects or music to be chosen at the beginning, and besides changing the atmosphere of the game, playing with simply the excellent on-point sound effects alone helps make the game much easier due to the oral cues you get from many actions of the enemies. So I'd also recommend trying it out for a completely different vibe to the game. I then asked a little bit more about the rest of the team that helped make this game.
Well, Tony is actually a serious project, because we have produced, or we have created 3 ports for 3 different platforms. So Commodore 64, of course, it's 4 people. It's Rafał Dudek, the game creator and the creator of the graphics. It is Sami Juntunen, a musician from Finland, who has composed 2 great tunes, and famous Adam Gilmour, who has created 7 more tunes. So we have quite a lot and quite a varied soundtrack. Now, of course, myself a programmer. Yeah. So as you see, it's quite a lot of people, and we have a lot of people that are helping us with testing, and everybody just made a great job. So I mean, it's a big project. I mean, surprisingly big project just for some retro game.
Overall, Tony, Montezuma's Gold is another gem in the C64 New Wave library that seems to have no slowdown in sight, which is exciting for all us veterans of the old breadbox. It's a wonderful job by the entire team. The C64 version is available as a digital download, and there will also be a full boxed version available in physical form that looks absolutely amazing for you to order as well. Plus there's also the Atari and Amiga versions available. My final question is one I pose to everyone making modern C64 games. What is the drive to make these games considering the C64's limits?
The motivation can be very different, but I think what's the common denominator? The common denominator is that we were perhaps the first generation people to be able to really own personal computer, which means that you have a completely free access to it. You don't have to go somewhere and buy the access to the mainframe. I mean, this is the computer that is affordable. You can buy it and plug to very simple devices like a TV. Basically, we were all delighted with this. I mean, most of us perhaps were just the computer video game players. Some of us, like for instance myself, I became a professional programmer after this. Here in Poland, we were a little bit time shifted because it was very, very difficult to be able to buy the most popular mainstream computer, the Commodore 64. It was just too expensive for us. And also I think that Jack Tramiel has conquered or has targeted his 8-bit computers for the Eastern Europe bloc because of his own personal, let's say, heritage. So it was already Commodore 64, because everything shifted. This computer was now completely legal to import to Poland. I was completely astonished by the quality titles, such as Giant Sisters or Last Ninja or this kind of stuff. I was liking those blocky graphics with those 16 colors. I was really a big fan of it, and the SID music as well. So I would say I was also having fun. So the last part of the motivation speech is, because I have fun. This is extremely rewarding thing. I can run the code, I can run it on the real hardware, I can play, I can plug the joystick, I can went through my own game, and I'm a horrible player. I'm completely lame when it comes to playing the game, and the only game I'm mastered without trainer is my own games, because I have to do it, because I have to test it. But that's it. That's the story. Thank you. Thank you for an interview.
A wonderful production by Monochrome. Hopefully this won't be the last from this team. It's an enjoyable, challenging, yet fair adventure that harkens back to Montezuma's Revenge and Rick Dangerous while being its own game all the same. Links to the digital download are in the video description. Enjoy the adventure.